For more on some of the Chinese traditions that are observed outside of China, we're joined by Rose Nan Ping Chen. She is the founder of the Rose Group for Cross-Cultural Understanding. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You know, as we saw, Chinese New Year is observed in so many parts of the world, from Southeast Asia to Brazil to New York City. What does it take to put these events together and to come together to observe Chinese New Year?
It takes some vision and a lot of work. I've been in this country since '71, and it's a sea of change. And with the China re-emerging on the world stage, and more people, even though sometimes it's negative news, they are curious about China. And I started our China Fest 12 years ago, and now it's become a signature event in Central Virginia. And we work with the University of Richmond and Virginia Museum of Fine Arts. So this relationship takes time to develop. And I'm so happy to see that more and more similar events is taking place, especially in Washington, D.C. And the cultural attaché here has done a great job. And this year, for the first time, Chinese New Year is celebrated at Smithsonian American Art Museum, Kennedy Center, and Freya Gallery.
So it's a lot going on. We saw a lot of younger children at the events that we saw in their stories. How can the younger generations born outside of China learn about their heritage during Spring Festival? How big of an effort is it for families and parents to continue these traditions?
It takes concerted efforts from both both parents and stuff. And Chinese school used to be the center of learning and stuff. And now, as you know, more schools, they have Chinese learning programs. And some of them, they have a total immersion program. So that helps. And also with the trade and the tourism, Chinese tourists coming over here, city like Chicago and London, they didn't have any big Chinese celebration before. Now they went out the whole, to the whole city celebrate. So I think language learning, once Chinese language become a mainstream language, I think we will see more.
Not just Chinese, but as we saw, there are people from different groups. They're not just Chinese, different ethnicities attending these events. And you touched on it, the larger growing interest in China and its traditions. How important are these cultural exchanges, learning about China?
I think it's extremely important. I can talk about my own experience. I was born and raised in Taiwan, and we have a different view about China for a long time. And then my parents moved back to China, and I visited China for the first time in 1991. And I find out there's a lot of misinformation, misunderstanding about China. And that's the impetus for me to set up the Rose Group for Cross-Cultural Understanding. And we cannot just rely on what we read in the newspaper and TV. I think a person-to-person contacts are the vital point of building bridges and better understanding.
We're certainly seeing it now. Rose Nan Ping Chen, thank you so much for joining us.
You're most welcome.